Ted Lasso Season 4 is just over a week away, and there's a lot of hype online about how this series might play out. In this video, I'm going to recap all of the major events from Seasons 1 to 3, but specifically about the characters that we know are going to be returning for Season 4. Then we're going to look at the new arrivals to Richmond and discuss what their roles might be. Here is only the best and most important things that you need to know for Ted Lasso Season 4. Now, I'm going to start first with arguably the most important character of the show, but what is not an argument is that he is the most adorable. I'm going to first start with Ted. Now, he was introduced to us way back in Season 1 as the new coach of Richmond Football Club. Ted is completely out of his depth, and after butchering his first press conference, you realise the cracks are beginning to form. And actually, maybe he wasn't the right man to take on this role. We learn more about that as time goes on with Rebecca, and I'm going to go into that in more depth when I discuss her character specifically. Nonetheless, he is a shining example of positivity, works on uniting the team, flattening some people's egos, I'm looking at you, Jamie Tart, and basically working on building a little bit more unity within the space at Richmond. Ted wants everybody to see the bigger picture, how it's not always about winning and losing, it's about going out there and doing your best. The fans who at first hate him and are completely mocking him start to come around to Ted and his ideologies. Even though they're still calling him a wanker, they're now saying it with a sense of admiration. He becomes more and more loved, even though the team aren't necessarily gaining any more success. Of course, there's many different events that occur throughout Season 1, but I'm going to go over just some of the main ones to remind you of them. Trent Crimm is hired to have an interview with Ted, and really this is a plot to mock him and kind of expose Ted for the idiot that people think he is, when in reality he gains Trent's respect. We're introduced to characters like Sassy, Jamie and his ego around everything, and how Ted is already becoming almost a father-like image and how that goes on to progress. What starts to occur, however, is Ted's panic attacks, and we first see this at the charity gala. What we start to see is that there is a reason Ted has taken on this job other than just trying to prove himself. In actual fact, he's essentially running away from his other life, his ex-wife Michelle and their son Henry. We even see Ted sign the divorce papers sat in a hotel room. Ted's personal life has been falling apart, and this starts to bring up a whole bunch of other stuff for him regarding his own father. We don't learn this until quite a few episodes into the show, but we discover that Ted lost his father to suicide. And after that event, his mother became quite emotionally closed off, essentially smiling through the pain. Ted then adopted a similar emotional pattern and has carried that throughout most of his life. Now that he's going through this divorce with Michelle, he's worried Henry is going to lose him in the same way that he lost his father. This is basically all brought out by Dr. Sharon, who is like a sports psychologist that they introduce at Richmond. Ted's journey between Season 1 and 3 isn't just essentially proving himself at his job, it's proving to himself that he can step away from it. And that's basically the decision that he comes to at the end of Season 3. He's going to go back home, be with Michelle and Henry, and make amends there and become a more present father for Henry in the best way that he can after facing his own demons. Of course, there's a lot more things that happen for Ted between Seasons 1 and 3. His relationship with Nate, how that builds up, falls apart and comes back together again. His dynamic with the players themselves and how he helps them through their own struggles, and of course other members at Richmond too. Ted is the epicenter and the main cogwheel of this entire show. Him coming there to take on the coaching role, proving himself and installing nothing but belief in all the team is actually what allows them to become as great as they do. Although he's concerned about how he is as a father to Henry, he becomes a father-like figure to everybody in the show, including the fans that support the club. Everybody's very sad when he leaves, but he's doing now what's right for him, as opposed to other people. And that's where we leave it. Ted goes home after an emotional goodbye to Rebecca at the airport, and he's back with Michelle and Henry. Speaking of Rebecca, let's move on to her next. So, Rebecca Welton, played by Hannah Waddingham, has just inherited Richmond Football Club after divorcing her ex-husband, Rupert. She deliberately hires Ted in the hopes of sabotaging the team. She knows how much Rupert loves the club and basically wants to drag the entire thing down into the dirt. So in her mind, she hires this rather kooky American football coach to make an absolute fool of himself right here in London. The majority of Season 1 is her basically orchestrating individual plots to try and sabotage this whole thing. Keely Jones, who is a model, is dating Jamie Tart, who is essentially the poster boy of Richmond Football Club. And Rebecca hires paparazzi to take pictures of Ted and Keeley together to insinuate the two of them are possibly having a fling. We even find out that she was the one that hired Trent Grimm in the hopes of embarrassing Ted. She's even the person that is trying to get Jamie Tart, like I said, our poster boy, put back to Man City, so basically Richmond would lose arguably their most talented player. She comes up with all these horrific ploys at different points to try and embarrass Ted, and even Higgins walks away because he can't quite face it. Just like Ted, we do learn there's more to the story. She's acting out against Rupert because of deep-rooted insecurity. She doesn't have the family that she deeply wants, and she's acting out as basically an FU to everybody that she feels that has wronged her. Rebecca's redemption arc is actually quite quick, and it wraps up at the end of season 1. She admits everything to Ted, who immediately forgives her because that's just the guy he is, and they go into season 2 with a much more positive approach. There's a whole plot line about her using a dating app to try and get back out there, but the problem is it turns out to be Sam Obisanya, who is one of the Richmond players. We learn more about the dynamic of Rebecca's parents. She saw her father cheating on her mother, but she never said anything. We find out that Deborah has known all along, and there is an amazing scene at the funeral where they're discussing this. She's angry at her for not being a brave enough woman to walk away, like she's walked away from Rupert. But Deborah explains her side of it, and you get this interesting dynamic here of acceptance on both sides. The funeral episode by far is my favourite of the entire series and has been the one that I've rewatched. The fact that you get such emotional moments as well as some of the funniest ones, it's by far, in my opinion, the best episode. Another one of my favourites for sure is the Amsterdam episode, and this is where Rebecca meets the Flying Dutchman. A possible romance begins to spark, and we see him yet again in the season 3 finale just outside the airport. Is it going to be a case of happily ever after? Are these two characters still going to be together as we go into season 4? And is Rebecca going to have the family that she's always wanted? Also in the finale, we see a scene with her and Keeley where they are looking at a book that is discussing a Richmond women's team. This is going to be the major plotline of season 4, and it's why they're bringing Ted all the way back to Richmond. It's getting way too warm to film this without my hair up. I don't know why I'm doing this in the middle of July, but anyway, Ted is not going to be coming alone because who is going to be right there with him? It's Coach Beard, baby. Beard, or as we eventually learn, his name is Willis, is Ted's long-term best friend and right-hand man. Beard is this sort of chaotic, calm energy at Richmond, but I would say he is the more tactically knowledgeable out of the two. He gets his own standalone episode in season 2 called Beard After Hours, and we learn a little bit more here about his own insecurities. We discover his dynamic with Jane. Arguably, they are the weirdest relationship in the entire show. He's a crucial part of the Diamond Dogs, a sort of brotherly alliance at the Richmond coaching team. I would say something very important that I forgot until I was looking back into this over the past week is we learnt more about why Beard is in coaching himself. Beard was essentially in prison and Ted was the one that took a chance on him. And that's why we see this massive shift for Nate. It isn't just Ted accepting him. The reason that he ever came back to Richmond was because Beard himself invited him back. And all of that was because of what Ted has been teaching him throughout their long, steady friendship. I would say those are the most crucial and important things to understand about Coach Beard, and also the fact that he stayed in London at the end of season 3. Ted went back to America, but he stayed as part of the coaching team with Roy. He's here, he's there, he's as hairy as a fucking bear. Let's talk about Roy Kent. We meet Roy as this very grumpy, ageing team captain at Richmond Football Club. At first, he despises Ted, he is the complete polarity of Ted, and the two of them don't gel particularly well. But, like his hairy chest, Ted starts to grow on him. Sorry, I'll stop now. As the relationship between Jamie and Keeley starts to fall apart, Roy starts taking a liking to her, and the two of them date on and off from seasons 1 to 3. In the finale of season 1, Roy suffers a knee injury that basically puts an end to his career. Whilst managing his niece Phoebe's local team, he also has a go at being a TV pundit. Roy is actually quite comically well loved in this position, though deep down you know it's not very satisfying to him. And the entirety of season 2 is Ted basically begging Roy to come back to Richmond and join the coaching team. In the end, Roy crumbles and runs his way back to Richmond, continuing to damage an already dodgy knee. Between Keeley and Roy in season 3, there is this push and pull dynamic. Keeley ends up dating someone called Jack. Roy accepts that he is holding Keeley back and that he isn't good for her, and there's some things that he needs to work on in the meantime. Speaking of Keeley, I want to talk about one of the most interesting characters I think is often very overlooked within the show. She's introduced to us in season 1 as Jamie's girlfriend and this kind of model, this kind of page 3 girl for lack of a better term. But she actually becomes the glue in season 1 that starts uniting a lot of the people together. She has this sort of same bright-eyed, kind energy that Ted has, and actually ends up warming Rebecca's heart. She's a good person for Jamie and for Roy, and is actually sort of someone that can calm the room down quite a lot. Keely's quite an important puzzle piece even from the beginning, and this becomes even more hefty when she becomes basically a PR representative for the club and all the players at Richmond. Not only does she become a very close friend to Rebecca, but Rebecca is almost a role model for her. Rebecca is a strong, independent woman that wants to do things for herself, and Keely has never felt that she is that. What we then get in season 3 is Keely building her own PR agency. During this time, Roy and Keely aren't getting along so well. It's very off and on again, and she actually starts dating Jack, who is somebody that is kind of funding Keely's new business. But the same thing happens here. She's being controlled by whoever she's dating, and she feels to some degree that she wants to break out of this mould that everyone's trying to put her in. We end season 3 with her wanting to build her own agency her own way, with the help of Barbara, a newly introduced character that I absolutely loved, and I'm also interested to see if she's in season 4 and their friendship develops even further. Another very crucial puzzle piece, who is confirmed to be returning for season 4, is Leslie Higgins. Higgins, like Ted, is this beacon of joy, always looking for the best in people, and actually I would say is the person throughout the show who offers the best advice. He's the director of football operations at Richmond and essentially manages the club. At first, Rebecca is just simply using him, and you can sort of see why. Higgins was actually the person that really allowed and encouraged Rupert to cheat on Rebecca when they were together. When he realises to the extent that Rebecca is willing to drag Richmond down, he quits. He can't sit and watch this happen. But Rebecca eventually goes back to him. Not only does she realise that he was right, but she actually needs him around. They're a very good duo together. Though a very background character, Higgins is the moral compass of the show to a degree. He's a family man, he's willing to host Christmas for the players that can't go home. He's also very funny. I mean, in the Amsterdam episode, we thought he was going to drag Will to like a red light district, but instead he just ends up going to a jazz club for the night. Even though he's a much lesser role than the other characters I've mentioned, I'm very happy that he's back in season 4, as I want to see what he's willing to do in terms of managing Richmond now they're going to be focused on a women's team. So, they are the characters confirmed to be in season 4. But what about these other characters that we've met in seasons 1 to 3? Where are they going to be? A character I could probably sit here and talk about for half an hour, but I won't. I'll save you from that, is Jamie Tart. I absolutely adored Jamie. He's without a doubt in my top 3 characters of the show, and I was at first quite disheartened to hear that he's not going to be in season 4, but apparently this was to do with some scheduling conflict, and he was basically doing a HBO show over the past year. However, there will be a little bit of a connection to Phil Dunster nonetheless, because his wife Eleanor Hayden is going to be directing some of the episodes for season 4. Another crucial character that I've touched upon a little bit here is Nate Shelley, who's played by Nick Mohammed. It is not confirmed whether he's going to be returning. However, in an interview, he had a little smirk on his face when somebody asked. Right now, we can just assume that Nate is not going to be within the show, but I'm wondering if he's going to show up at some point. As far as we know, he's been left in the coaching squad with Roy, so maybe it's a case of Roy and Nate are going to be managing the men's team, and maybe they might show up at different parts somewhere throughout season 4. I suppose we'll have to wait and see. A lot of the players like McAdoo, Sam Obisanya and Colin, all those bunch are not going to be in the show because this is going to be primarily focused on a women's team. We also don't know if the likes of Dr. Sharon or Trent Crimm are going to be in the show. I really hope they are. I think it brought out some amazing character arcs for a lot of the characters in the first 3 seasons. If they're not going to have a sports psychologist like Dr. Sharon in the show, are they going to replace that with somebody else and allow for these kind of character developments to still happen? Or is it going to be a completely different avenue entirely? Is Ted going to be working with a different reporter instead, as opposed to Trent Crimm, who now maybe wants to become an author after releasing the book about Richmond? In terms of other possible returning characters, we can assume that Michelle, Ted's mum, and Henry are going to be back. As far as we know, Henry Lasso has been recast and is now going to be played by Grant Feely. There is rumour that Ted's son wants to become a soccer player himself. So I'm wondering if Ted has been coaching the kids team out in Kansas. I think we're also going to see characters like May and a few of the pub members again, considering that now Richmond gave out shares of the club to those people. I think they're going to become even more crucial parts as the show goes on. Now let's talk about new cast members that we know are going to be arriving in the up-and-coming season. Tanya Reynolds, you may know her from a show called Sex Education, is going to be arriving to play the new assistant coach. She's going to be apparently working alongside Ted and Beard. 2 other confirmed actresses actresses are Faye Marseille and Abby Hearn. It is assumed they are going to be Richmond's women's players. The cast list also includes the likes of Jude Mack, Rex Hayes and Aisling Sharkey. All we know is that Ted is not done at Richmond. He has come back from America to work with this women's team, probably because Rebecca has asked him to. Is Rebecca going to have the family that she wants? Are Ted and Michelle going to be back together? Are we even going to see any of these beloved characters that aren't confirmed surprise us somewhere along this new series? The truth is, right now we don't know. We're just going to have to figure it out week by week as the episodes come out. If you don't want to miss that and you want to come along on this journey with me and other people on the channel, the best thing to do is subscribe, put your notifications on, and that way you won't miss anything. If you did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out. What you can also do is click the hype button. This allows me to be pushed on the algorithm further and helps new people discover this channel. Let me know your thoughts on the up and coming series of Ted Lasso. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you concerned about whether it's going to be too different to the other seasons? I want to hear your opinions below. As always, take very good care of yourself. Believe, and I'll see you next time. Toodles!